Well, I grew up in the Soviet Union as the son of an American diplomat in the 1970s and 80s. It was during that time that I was introduced to the richness of Russian culture and art. I can remember as a little boy my father taking me to the studios of Russian underground artists. And while I don't think I was that interested in art at the time, I never forgot the experience. Nor did I forget the experience of coming home from school one day, walking into our living room, and witnessing my father in a long, kind of interesting discussion with a group of Russian writers and poets and filmmakers. So I think at a young age I was exposed to the richness of Russian culture. And just growing up there, I became very interested in Russian history. And, I think sooner or later, these two interests kind of intersected. My interest in history and my interest in art. And so in the 1990s, I started collecting Russian art. Rather obsessively. And then in 2005, the Guggenheim did a major show on Russian art. A lot of the work they featured was the work of Russian nonconformists, these same artists that I had visited with my father as a kid. And it was at that point that I realized that this collection that I had put together was not only worth a lot of money, but I could launch a gallery built around that collection. And so that's what I did. In 2006, I opened the gallery, convinced that there was a void in the market. There were only a handful of galleries in the United States specializing in Russian art, which I thought was nuts, given the fact that two of the most important abstract painters of the 20th century were Russians. So I just went for it. Well, one of the things I want to do is I want to continue to grow the size of the gallery print collection. I think prints are a tremendous value in the art market today. I recently acquired two prints by Jean Dubuffet, the great French art brut painter. And they're both very low edition, and they're both very reasonably priced. And I think prints are a wonderful way for young collectors and collectors with limited means to build a beautiful collection. So that's certainly something I want to continue to push. I think after showing Russian art for a couple of years, I was looking for a new group of artists to show. And in 2008, I think, Peter Acheson introduced me to Catherine Bradford, an artist in Brooklyn. I went down and I visited her and I fell in love with her work instantly. And she in turn introduced me to a couple young artists by the names of Brian Ballot, Brendan Cass, and Catherine Bernhardt. And I fell in love with their work. And so that's how it really started, that is, that interest in Brooklyn art. I think the collectors that ignore Russian art, nonconformist art, contemporary trends in Russian art, do so at great peril. Two of the three most important pioneers of abstract art in the 20th century were Russians, Malevich and Kandinsky. And I think that discerning collectors who don't keep their eye on new Russian artists are making a big mistake. That's a big part of the reason I opened the gallery and I continue to run the gallery. I want to expose collectors to new Russian art. I think it's important. I really believe in the power of art to create mutual understanding.